Dopamine. It's the word on everyone's lips, the hero molecule of our modern age. It's been packaged and sold to us as a simple switch for happiness. Feeling down? Get a dopamine hit. Lacking motivation? Boost your dopamine. Our apps, our food, our work, culture, everything is being redesigned to cater to this one chemical pathway. We've been given a seemingly simple equation for a good life. More dopamine equals more happiness. And so, we chase it. We relentlessly pursue the next notification, the next purchase, the next fleeting high, believing each one will finally deliver the lasting contentment we crave. But have you ever stopped in the middle of that race and felt an exhaustion that goes bone deep? Have you ever looked at the newly bought items, the just-achieved accomplishments, and felt a terrifying emptiness right after the brief spark of satisfaction? That feeling, that sense of running on a treadmill and getting nowhere, is not a personal failure. It is a perfectly designed neurological trap, and most of us have fallen into it. This machine is called the dopamine treadmill. The faster we run, the further the horizon of happiness seems to recede. Why? Because we have been convinced to believe in one of the greatest myths about the human mind. Today, our journey is not to vilify or eliminate dopamine. Dopamine is an essential part of being human, the driving force that motivates us to explore, create, and survive. Instead, our journey is to understand it correctly, to expose the lie that has been woven around it, and most importantly, to discover a type of pleasure, a kind of happiness so much deeper and more sustainable, something that goes far beyond dopamine. This is a journey of decoding and liberation. If you are ready not just to learn, but to truly build a more fulfilling life, join Mind Decode Explained. Together, we will step off that treadmill, not by slowing down, but by finding a completely new path. To begin, we need to clearly understand the operator of this treadmill. That operator is the misunderstanding of dopamine. The life's work of Dr. Kent Berridge at the University of Michigan has drawn a critically important line between two separate processes in the brain, wanting and liking. In popular perception, these two are one and the same. But neurologically, they are completely different. Berridge proved that dopamine is not the molecule of liking. It is not the warm, satisfying feeling when you take a bite of a delicious cake. It is not the joy when you complete a task. Dopamine, fundamentally, is the molecule of wanting. It is the impulse that drives you to seek that piece of cake. It is the restlessness, the anticipation, the neurological itch that makes you constantly check your phone, endlessly scroll through social media. It is the energy of the search, not the peace of having found. This is the core of the trap. Tech companies, marketers, social media platforms have become masters at exploiting this wanting system. Every notification, every like, every short video is designed to trigger a small dopamine burst, not enough to bring real satisfaction, liking, but just enough to make you want more. It creates an endless loop. Wanting leads to action. The action brings a small, fleeting reward, and that reward immediately triggers a new, stronger wanting. You never truly arrive, because the goal of this system is not for you to arrive. The goal is to keep you running. Imagine your mind as a grand symphony orchestra. A life focused only on dopamine is like listening to a single violinist, playing the same short, agitating, and never-ending piece over and over again. It might be captivating at first, but it soon becomes monotonous and exhausting. True happiness, a life worth living, is not a solo performance. It is a symphony, with the participation of all instruments, each bringing its own emotional color, creating a harmonious and profound whole. Now, let's listen to the other instruments in that hidden orchestra. If dopamine is the relentless wanting, where does the actual feeling of liking come from? It comes from the brain's endogenous opioid system, which releases endorphins. This is the warm sound of the cello, the ah moment of satisfaction. It's the feeling when you eat a delicious meal after a long, tiring day. It's the warmth that spreads through your body after a tight hug. Endorphins are the reward, the end of a wanting cycle, but they are designed to be brief. They signal that a need has been met, so we can move on to other things. A life spent only seeking endorphin highs is another trap, leading to passivity and addiction. It's only one part of the symphony, not the whole piece. And then there is a pleasure even deeper than the liking of endorphins. It is the pleasure of connection. This is the domain of oxytocin, often called the love hormone. But that name diminishes its importance. Oxytocin is the chemical glue that binds human society. It is the warmth you feel when you are truly present with someone, when you look into their eyes and feel understood. The renowned researcher Brené Brown said, "Connection is why we're here. It's what gives purpose and meaning to our lives." 1,000 likes on social media cannot generate the amount of oxytocin that one sincere conversation, one empathetic handshake can. The pleasure from oxytocin is not as loud as dopamine, but it nourishes our souls in a sustainable way. It is the gentle, melodious flute in the orchestra, bringing a sense of safety and belonging. For all these instruments to play together in harmony, we need a talented conductor, one who keeps the rhythm and balance. That is the role of serotonin. For years, we mistook serotonin as the happiness chemical because SSRI antidepressants act on it. But modern research, like the major 2022 review by Dr. Joanna Moncrief, has shown its role is much more complex. Serotonin does not directly create happiness. It is like the conductor, ensuring that no single emotion becomes too overwhelming. It helps us be emotionally flexible, to experience sadness without drowning, to feel joy without becoming too manic. It is stability, the solid foundation upon which other emotions can be expressed healthily. Finally, there is a form of pleasure that is often the most forgotten, yet one of the most craved in our noisy world. It is the pleasure of peace. This is the work of GABA, the brain's main inhibitory neurotransmitter. If dopamine is the cheer of "go forward," then GABA is the whisper of "stop, rest." It's the feeling when the anxious thoughts in your head finally fall silent. It's the tranquility you feel after a meditation session or a walk in nature. In a world obsessed with adding dopamine, adding achievements, adding stimulation, GABA reminds us of the power of subtracting. Subtracting stress, subtracting anxiety, subtracting noise. That peace, that tranquility, is a profound form of pleasure. When we look at this entire orchestra, we realize an obvious truth. Focusing only on dopamine is like asking an entire symphony orchestra to play only one note. It's pointless and wrong. So what is the solution? If hacking chemicals isn't the answer, then what is the path to a truly fulfilling life? The answer lies in changing the game entirely. Instead of trying to control the musicians, let's learn to become a composer, an architect for our own lives. Fortunately, pioneering psychologists have drawn us a detailed blueprint. This is the work of Dr. Martin Seligman, the father of the positive psychology movement. After decades of focusing only on treating mental illness, he asked a revolutionary question: what makes a life worth living? His research and that of his colleagues resulted in the PERMA model, a blueprint for human flourishing. PERMA is not an abstract theory. It is a set of practical tools, the specific solution we are looking for. Let's dissect each part of this blueprint together, turning theory into action. The first pillar of PERMA is P, which stands for positive emotion. This is the closest to the traditional concept of happiness. But it's not about forcing yourself to be happy all the time, a form of toxic positivity. It is the art of naturally cultivating and extending positive emotions. The life lesson here is that happiness is not just in grand events. It is hidden in the small moments of everyday life. Our brains, due to evolution, have a negativity bias, meaning they pay more attention to bad things than good things. We need to actively retrain the brain. As a solution for self-improvement, you can practice savoring. When you have a positive experience, no matter how small, don't let it pass. Stop. Use all your senses to taste that experience. If you're drinking a delicious cup of coffee, feel the aroma, the warmth of the cup, the delicious taste on your tongue. This technique extends and amplifies the impact of positive emotions. Another powerful exercise is the 3 good things practice. This is one of the most researched and effective exercises in positive psychology. Every night before bed, write down 3 things that went well that day and your role in making them happen. For example, my colleague praised my presentation, 1, because I took the time to prepare it carefully. My role. This forces your brain to scan the entire day for positives, gradually changing the ingrained negativity bias. The next element is E, for engagement, the state that psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi called flow. It is when you are so completely immersed in an activity that you lose all track of time, forgetting yourself. This is the perfect antidote to the distraction and restlessness of dopamine. The life lesson is that happiness is not always a feeling. Sometimes, happiness is the absence of feeling, the merging of self with action. We often feel our best not when relaxing on a beach, but when we are striving with all our might to overcome a challenge that is just right for our skill level. To find your flow, you must look for the intersection of high challenge and high skill. If the challenge is too hard, you'll be anxious. If it's too easy, you'll be bored. Make a list of activities in your life: work, hobbies, sports. Which activities make time fly by the fastest? Those are your candidates for flow states. To design a flow experience, first, set a clear goal, knowing exactly what you need to do. Second, eliminate all distractions by turning off your phone and closing irrelevant tabs. Third, focus entirely on the process, not the final outcome, concentrating on each small step right in front of you. And finally, the activity should give you immediate feedback, letting you know whether you're doing well or not, like playing a piece of music correctly or writing a piece of code that runs. The third pillar is R, for relationships. This is perhaps the most important element. The Harvard study of adult development, the longest-running study on human life, reached an undeniable conclusion. Good relationships keep us happier and healthier. Not money, not fame. It is the quality of our relationships. The lesson here is that happiness is not a solitary journey. It is found and multiplied in connection with others. Loneliness is as toxic as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. A powerful tool for self-improvement in this area is practicing active constructive responding, ACR. When someone shares good news with you, there are 4 ways you can respond, but only one builds the relationship. An active destructive response would be to point out the negatives, like saying, "A promotion? Your work will probably be much more stressful now." A passive destructive response is to ignore them, changing the subject or looking at your phone. A passive constructive response is a lukewarm, emotionless compliment like, "Oh, that's nice. Congratulations." But the gold standard, the only one that works, is active constructive responding. This means showing genuine enthusiasm and asking questions to learn more. "Really? That's amazing. Tell me everything. How did they tell you? Were you the first to know? We have to celebrate." Responding this way amplifies their joy and powerfully strengthens your relationship. Practice it today. Next is M for meaning. This is the feeling of belonging to and serving something larger than yourself. The psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, a survivor of the Nazi concentration camps, wrote in his masterpiece, Man's Search for Meaning, that a person can endure any how if they have a why. Meaning is that why. The life lesson is that happiness lies not in the pursuit of pleasure, but in the pursuit of meaning. Pleasure is merely a byproduct of a meaningful life. To build meaning, you don't have to go find some mystical thing. You build it. Ask yourself, how can I use my talents to help someone, even in the smallest way? How can I make this world 1% better? Start with small actions. Help a colleague. Volunteer for an hour a week. Share your knowledge. Another way is to clarify your personal values. What do you truly value? Creativity? Compassion? Justice? Growth? Choose your top 3-5 core values. Then, each week, ask yourself, this week, how will I live out my value of X? A meaningful life is one where your actions are consistent with your values. Finally, there is A for accomplishment. This is not just about winning trophies or getting promotions. This is the feeling of striving, progress, and personal competence. It is about setting and conquering meaningful goals, the process of becoming a better version of yourself. The lesson is that the process of striving is itself a reward. Happiness is not just at the destination, but in every step of the journey. To cultivate this, you should foster a growth mindset, a concept from psychologist Carol Dweck. Instead of believing your abilities are fixed, a fixed mindset, believe that you can develop through effort and learning. When faced with a challenge, a person with a growth mindset doesn't say, I can't do it, but asks, I can't do it yet, so what do I need to learn? You should also set goals geared towards mastery, not just results. Instead of a goal to lose 10 kg, set a goal to become a person who understands nutrition and enjoys physical activity. The second goal focuses on building identity and competence, a much more sustainable source of accomplishment. When we look at the PERMA blueprint, we see a liberating truth. Happiness is not a chemical state we passively receive. It is an architectural work we actively build. It is a set of skills we can learn and practice. So, where do we start? A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. Don't try to do all of this at once. Look at the 5 elements of PERMA. Which element resonates with you most right now? Which one do you feel you are lacking the most? Choose one, just one. And this week, take one small, concrete action to cultivate it. Maybe it's writing down 3 good things every night. Maybe it's spending 30 uninterrupted minutes on a hobby. Maybe it's calling an old friend instead of just texting. Maybe it's volunteering for an hour. One small action. Your life is not a pop song with a catchy but forgettable dopamine hook. It is a grand symphony with quiet chapters of contemplation, climaxes of joy, complex harmonies of relationships, and necessary silences to create meaning. And you are the one holding the conductor's baton. The conductor's job is not to force the violin to play louder than everything else. Your job is to learn to listen to the music of each section of your inner orchestra, wanting of dopamine, the satisfaction of endorphins, the connection of oxytocin, the stability of serotonin, and the peace of GABA, and then, with skill and wisdom, guide them to play together in a harmonious performance. Step off the treadmill. Place your baton on the music stand. Listen, and ask yourself, today, how will I compose the next movement of my life? That masterpiece is waiting for you.